Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Family Campfire. Um, Tonight is a special edition. First, I want to stop and I want to thank all of you in the external that's watching for hanging out and being patient with us while we ran through our technical issues. But I, I really do appreciate that. But tonight is a special edition. We have the one and only Mr. Howard Hewitt himself with us. So So since we've already taken up a little bit of time getting everything set up for you, we're going to get right to it tonight. Thanks everybody on the panel for coming on. I'm going to go right away and send it over to Josh and let Josh go ahead and get started.
Oh, okay. Well then, uh, I guess for starters, it's definitely a pleasure to speak with you, Howard.
Thank you.
We've, you've been on Beyond Sight and Sound, and that was certainly a privilege. A lot of information covered when you were on the show. Very, very passionate about the hobby. Which is very commendable. You are very well respected in the hobby. Many people even refer to you as the godfather of metal detecting. You know, but for a person that has such an energy about yourself and about the hobby the way that you do, it really is kind of addicting in a sense. You do have quite a few people that follow and respect you for what you do. But I think one of the big questions, and we had kind of touched on it when you were on Beyond Sight and Sound, would be just exactly what is the passion that drives Howard Hewitt? What is it that keeps you out there doing the things that you do? Because you're so faceted with the hobby. It doesn't matter if you're out detecting for coins or you're out digging a bottle dump or privy digging or anything. You're into it, just dove in headlong. Anything to do with metal detecting, treasure hunting, history,
Yep.
Howard Hewitt's there.
Right. Exactly. The magic word is the recovery of not just my past, okay, which is probable because my family first settled in this area where I live here in Bristol County, Massachusetts, where I'm from, in 1634. And I actually know what that actual location is. But even more than that, it's just the recovery of the past in general, because collectively, it's our history, it's our heritage, and we have this primal instinct to get reconnected with these ancient roots. Because of where we are technologically, as challenging as it is, because we're advancing and developing so fast, everything that's just going through our lives a blur. So I'm convinced that if we don't actually connect with our past, whether emotionally or otherwise, those from the other side of the veil may actually make a sincere effort to get through to us from where they are. And that's what the very foundation of NAAR is all about, is actually reconnecting with our ancestral heritage. If you stay in your own backyard, as some people I know I was inspired to have heard from, okay, we need not mention names, has definitely the right idea. You don't have to travel across the country or across the face of the globe to recover the past. It would be of your best interest to stay within the local area where your family heritage had settled. When you get emotionally connected to what you recover and what you later learn, that these relics and artifacts are actually from your heritage, whether by marriage or by blood, either way, we're all connected. And that's what really makes it interesting. That's what gives us that harder drive. These are the hardliners, that go out for 10, 15 hours. Todd Hiltz, Dave Wise, Scott Lannon, just to name a few between Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island, and these guys will push for 10, 14 hours at times, but they average between 8 to 10, and I've done 19 myself. On that particular day, I didn't think I was going to come out of the woods, really. I was that exhausted. I'd actually put in a 19-hour day. On the way in, I carried a backpack totaling a minimum of 50 to 60 pounds with all my gear, my shovels, everything that I had. When I came back out with a minimum of 60 to 80 pounds more. And I had to trek nearly 2 miles in the woods. And on the last 3/4 of the mile on the way out, it was already pitch black. Yeah, that had me worried. And, I'll more likely won't do that again.
Right. And I know that much like myself, you as well are a big proponent of the train of thought that when we are out there doing these things, we're out there to recover these items in order to allow that story to continue.
To be told. Yes.
Because all of our items do have a story to tell. We just have to be open-minded enough or observant enough just to listen. And I think that is what keeps a lot of us pushing, chomping at the bit. Got to stay out there. Got to keep trying to find that history, because otherwise it's only going to rot in the ground, and that's just a travesty.
Yes.
But you are also a firm believer in sometimes we're almost, in a sense, guided to these items, where maybe one person walks over it and they miss it, or for some reason you're out hunting in an area and suddenly maybe you veer right when normally you may have veered left, and it's almost like these particular artifacts are hidden in a sense, or guarded over, where all of a sudden now here comes a worthy ambassador.
Yes.
Here comes a person who is respectable, worthy to allow our story to continue. Now it is time for our items to come to light, for this person to allow that story to continue.
Yes. And see, now you understand why I look forward to bringing a small microcassette recorder. As I recover the artifact, probability would suggest that if you intuitively know that what you just recovered you were guided to, it is more likely impacted with emotion. Because obviously, to whom had lost it had impacted this artifact to be Well, to flip a switch. And as soon as you recover this, and your emotions meet that same plane, if you will, that's when you take out the recorder. Because because you could wager the fact that you just may get a response directly. You're going to get a direct, intelligent, surviving consciousness to respond to an artifact that you just took out of the ground that has been lost for 200 years. Now, as far as history goes, or anything in the field of technology, in the field of archaeology, blows it out of the water. Archaeology could not hold a candle to what we have already successfully done repeatedly. And this is what's incredible.
Absolutely.
Can you imagine if they could actually teach this as an academic, teaching in most universities, where you have students in the field of archaeology, actually get Class A EVPs from relics and artifacts from thousands of years ago. This is a mind-blowing thought, and it works. I have 3 EVPs in historical context to relics and artifacts that I took out of the ground. It's incredible, and this is the very footing of my group that I'm organizing, NAAR.
And
That's awesome.
Can you tell us what NAAR?
Yes.
What that translates to?
I would be happy to tell you what we're all about. Let me read on. I wrote it down. I got my trusty desk lamp. Okay, now these are each stanza or a paragraph, if you will, is a little jumbled, so I'll be shuffling the paper here, so bear with me, and I will read on. Our intention here is not only to inspire you to explore and recover our nation's history, but to enlighten those of you who may have fearfully misunderstood one vital aspect of our message: the calling of these residual whispers of our ancestral heritage, thereby recovering the graven testimonials of those long ago that may have been emotionally impacted on the very sites in which we find these revered artifacts. Now, should I give an example? I will.
Sure, by all means.
Okay, here's one for you. One would be that I find a hand-forged sickle of iron made during the 18th century. Such an artifact as this may have been severely impacted by a struggling gentleman farmer named Edmund Andrews, for an example, who actually died of sheer exhaustion in the attempt to save his wheat crop from a hard frost on the evening of October 17th of 1775. All right? Now, in the attempt to validate such an occurrence as an actual historical event is by extensive research from many available resources: the Registry of Deeds, the town records, not including private archival collections. But more importantly is to turn to an interesting alternative resource, and that is the formal introduction of welding, both metal detecting and the field of parapsychology, both of which I have studied for more than 30 years. All right. And on the 5th, by choice, in doing this, by choice, we need not provoke those of the past, but to graciously invoke their testimonies with 3 germinating seeds, for which these slumber within the sacred space between the heart and the mind. We know this of Navarre to be called the throat of wisdom. These 3 is of empathy, integrity, and compassion. Now, I'm going to read on to 6 and 7. Now, regardless of our methodologies, we know better to abide by the infinite laws of reason. Therefore, we accept our obligations and title as ravens to educate and inspire those who seek a deeper learning of much more than our nation's history. That was the 7th. Okay. So now you understand, clearly what we're about.
Yes. And you also have a saying, too. I noticed that you mentioned the throat of wisdom.
Yes.
You also have a saying to do with that about the sword of ignorance.
Yes. I would be happy to recite that again.
I thought that was very well written when I had heard that from you previously. Yeah, if you have that, by all means, share it.
Oh, I mean, I know it by heart. Let not the throat of wisdom yield to the sword point of ignorance.
And there is, I mean, that is an absolute truism. There's a lot of truth in that statement.
Yeah. These ideas and concepts, I have deeply contemplated for years. And, every still moment that I know that I could make or had made the time for, and even in my sleep, in my dreams, these ideas would swim in the infinite oceans of everything that I am. And when I worked it all out, these words that I just spoke with rang with a higher truth. Another vital thing, to consider is we are all assigned to stand within the fields of our own ignorance. And in these fields are all the seeds of self-doubt and fear, and what is to harvest from that. At hand, we always hold a watering can, and out of fear, we will always water these fields, because these fields are desolate, and we don't see much of anything that's green, especially in this modern day. You turn on the news, you hear nothing but propaganda and trash, half-truths, lies. In almost every avenue of the media, the press, all of it. You know, so the only thing that you really get much out of life is what you actually experience yourself. For wisdom can only be applied by experience. You know?
That's a very good way to put it. It's
Yeah.
very, very true. And you know, some people kind of scoff, I guess would be a good word, at the field of parapsychology. But for those who have followed the field in any way, shape, or form, have realized that sometimes there are items that could, in fact, have spiritual ties to it, because it's a real, true, constant energy.
Yep.
And I would be, I was going to say, I would be curious to see. I'm pretty sure, based on your background, that you view that in pretty much the same light. That this is a real energy that we deal with in the field.
Oh yeah. You know, you can actually feel it.
Right. Sometimes you walk into a certain area. The air is just different, so to speak. You can tell you're on hallowed ground, so to speak.
Oh, yes. Oh, those magic words. Magic words. Yes. Yeah, see, now somebody's laughing here in the background.
And
Yes.
you have had quite a lot of experience in the hobby, and you're very you're quite the ambassador, a role model to many in the hobby because of the way you do things. You are doing them the proper way. You do try to recover these items so that those stories do have an opportunity to continue, and that is just a really, really great thing. I noticed on the show, like when you were on Beyond Sight and Sound. I mean, when you speak, people listen, and that's what we've got to remember, is to be open-minded. You know,
Yeah.
never
You know.
be too busy to not take the time to listen. And you have such a way of trying to portray this message when you speak that it's almost like an art form, much like with your writings and everything. It's just truly amazing. Very commendable to you. You've also mentioned some very well-respected names in the hobby.
Oh yes.
And
Yeah.
it's always a privilege to be able to speak with you. We've spoke before in private conversations as well as on the show and stuff, and
True.
I think it's very good the way that you're doing things with the hobby. You truly are a trailblazer in a sense. You've always done it your own way from the beginning, and nothing is going to stop that. I mean, clearly people see you. You are not getting out anytime soon.
Well, listen, I can't take all the credit. There's someone here that we all know, and someone is really sticking their neck out.
That's right.
Oh, yeah, I see. Yes.
It is going to be it's going to be a great time to be able to hunt with you the end of the month, and to be able to sit back and kind of discuss some things as well as some other things going on after the hunt.
You know what, guys? I have to tell you, I'm already preparing myself for the very fact that I really doubt if I will sleep at all from the time that I get there Thursday, Friday, all day Saturday, and most of Sunday.
Yeah, it's going to be a long run for some of us, I'm sure.
Yeah,
But
no doubt.
it's always a pleasure to speak with you, Howard. You're definitely a very honorable person in the hobby, and I'm gonna move off to the side and let some of these other people get in here and have some time
Yes,
with you.
please do.
So
Yeah.
always a pleasure, and off to you, Frank.
Hey, thanks, Josh. You know, you really hit it real well with Howard with those questions. Great questions, great answers. Howard, you know, we've talked a few times.
Yep.
You know what I'm about. I know you know.
Yeah, yeah, I do. Oh, you kidding? Yeah, I can see right through you like a pane glass window.
Oh, yes. And, you know, really, I feel a big connection with you with walking on sites and feeling something.
Mm-hmm.
I realized this was something for me anyway, pretty early on when I started metal detecting. I don't know why it happened. I don't know how it happened, but I knew when I walked on that property that I had a permission to.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, sacred ground. You know, you give respect, and when you seem to open your heart to that ground, things just come up that you can't imagine. And it's hard to explain to people listening that say, oh, I'm just going to melt. I got this great permission, and I'm going to metal detect, and, you know, I'm going to find some silver coins and this and that. But, you know, when you really open up to that property and you feel it, you feel the resonance of that property, strange things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
So I'm going to have two questions for you.
Yes.
One, it's great to see when people recover objects, but when you hold it in your hand, you know what that feeling is. Now, is there any object that when you recovered it, you said, you know what, I want more of these, and you collect them? What is it in your collection that you just have a fondness for, that you really, really like?
Oh, let me see. Monogrammed items, such as a silver thimble made of coined silver, circa 1700, you know, well, not necessarily that old. I mean, most monogrammed thimbles are of the late 18th, early 19th century. Yeah, a thimble, or any monogrammed artifact or relic. And it, you know, and it wouldn't necessarily have to be something that's recovered from the ground. This could be an axe,
Right.
a broad axe, you know, found jammed up in the rafters of an ancient barn, you know, and see the initials carved on a beautifully polished handle, where it, you know, where this master carpenter had polished the handle with the oils from his own skin for 30, 40, 60 years, you know? I mean, you can't buy that.
No.
Can you imagine everything that that man is impacted in that handle?
Mm-hmm.
If that thing could talk and you had the length of hair like Sam does, are you kidding? It would blow it back. It would, Sam, if you were to hold it, it would literally blow your hair back. Yeah, like a hurricane.
Oh, that's great.
Hurricane. Yeah, you know.
Now I want to try.
Oh, well, yeah, okay, you can try. You know, attic finds. Attic exploration is one of my favorites. I actually had the privilege to go into an old abandoned farmhouse of the early 19th century. And I kid you not when I tell you that as I walked up this lonely dirt road and found this old place, it was shrouded with giant maple trees, all gold and yellow and red. And the wind was blowing, and the sky was a ghost gray. I approached this house all by myself, and in the wind I could hear all those of long ago. And I came to the door of that place, and I went in from one of the back L's of the house, and I walked up the stairway, and I realized that I came in through a back way to one of the additions, an attic addition of the place. Well, the door was locked, but I knew I could get the door just ajar where I could see that it was locked with a hand-forged braided twist of iron, you know. It was a hand-forged swivel lock. Wow. So I'm thinking, clever now. I need something flat and thin. All I got to do is just kick that lock up. And wouldn't you know it, I got lucky. I found a long, narrow file out of a box of tools laying on the ground at the bottom of the stairs. So I made haste back up to the top of the stairs. And just as I started to slide that old file to flip up that lock, I could hear rolling thunder in the background. I actually felt like I was in a movie. I hit that lock, that swivel lock, and it unhitched and swiveled and clanged, and I heard that door squeak. And just as it did, I looked in there where it was dark at first, but then a break of the afternoon sun came through the clouds, and it came through a low eyebrow window, just square and horizontal across the floor. When I opened that door, I looked to see an open chest, and I saw these ladies' gloves lumped over the mouth of the open chest. But within it were these papers and letters. And without thinking, I just kept walking across the floor. And when I did, I stopped. And I literally made time stop. And I turned around to see that my footprints were inlaid almost a half an inch deep in dust. I was the first person that had ever walked in that attic floor, and at least 80, if close to 100 years. I walked up to that chest and I opened it up, and it was full of letters from 4 brothers who went to war from World War I through World War II. Ralph, Joseph, Alan, I can still remember their names. I sat down there in the middle of a thrashing, crashing, roaring thunderstorm as I read those letters aloud, and I would not be surprised if any of those men stood near. I had every suspicion that I wasn't alone. I'll never forget that day. I'll never forget it.
Yeah, it really is. It's the personal items that I think for me have a huge impact. When you're holding something and you know it's a personal item, it speaks volumes. You know,
Yeah.
I can't say it as eloquently as you can, but I completely understand what that does to your soul, and that's what it really does.
Yeah.
It affects it. It's a feeling. If you've never felt it as a metal detectorist, once it hits you, and it hits it really does. It hits your soul. You start to realize, there is a reason I'm here. There's a reason why I'm finding it. There's a reason.
Yes.
Another
magic word.
Yeah. I mean, I always say things happen for a reason, and it's hard to explain unless you feel it. And I know you have multiple times.
Of course. Well, you realize there's a greater plan that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, what we're experiencing and learning along the way just happens to be a perk.
Right.
For the universal plan. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it's the side thing, you know. I mean, detecting is one part, but finding those things that's really the jewel. I mean, and it can be anything from, you know, a scrap car that some child was playing with, you know, that's old.
Good one.
You hold that in your hand, and you can actually, you know, hear the kid giggling, you know, things like that, you know. And when those little thoughts go through your mind, those aren't little thoughts. Those are actually that child talking to you.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you miss it, you miss it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do. Of course I do. You know? Well, like for an example, okay? Here's a perfect one. Okay, now that you just mentioned that, Frank. Get this. This is a place not far from where I live. It's called Boyden Heights. And even long after the park had folded up and it went out of business, unfortunately, but a lot of the local kids, right up until just after the war years, were still playing in there, in those woods. And these woods are, they have a majestic, romantic atmosphere that draws the attention to a lot of kids, you know, because the kids around the neighborhood are going through this place to think, wow, this is such a cool place to be. And it was. I had no doubt in my mind that it was, even then. And as I'm going through there, I happened to notice this moss and ivory covered glacial rock, and there was another one just next to it, but in between the two rocks was just a narrow slot that you could actually see where you could still hide, you know. You could lie down on the ground. Now, as soon as I saw this, I could vividly picture two young boys, 8 and 10 years old, apart from each other, you know, and they got their toy rifles and they're playing army guys, see? And I pictured the one kid in between the two rocks laying down, losing a couple of coins out of his pocket because he's taking out shells or something, you know, out of his pocket to put into his gun, you know, while he's, you know, playing army guy. And I kid you not, I no sooner had this vision in my head and I found a Walking Liberty $50 and a quarter right in the swell where I was sure he laid down on the ground.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, those things, those are signs. They definitely are. You know, and it's like I said, unless you feel it, you're missing out. You really are. You're missing out. you know, because it really does. It takes it to a level that's beyond why you're there. It really does.
Yeah. You know, the materialistic aspect of what you have is, you know, it just, you know, it just flies over your head. But what you actually value is what you feel when you recover it. That's what everybody wants all the time. That's the addiction.
Well, and you know, it's like you said, you walked in this house, and you remember each name of those soldiers writing letters.
Yeah.
You know, that's the stuff. That's the stuff right there.
Yeah.
With the metal detecting and doing stuff, because you know, when you look at it, oh yeah, I find, you know, it once you're there in that zone and you really feel it, and you'll remember that moment forever. You know, there are certain things I remember in my digs. I will never ever forget revealing some of the coolest things, and you know, maybe monetarily aren't worth much, but very cool because of how I found them and what I felt when I found them. You know.
Yeah.
And it really is the biggest bonus of they say the hunt, and really I don't even I hate to use that term. It's almost like the calling. I'd rather say the calling, because that's almost what it feels like. You know, you're drawn to certain areas, like you're drawn to the rocks. You're drawn to certain spots. And once you have that openness, and you're just drawn, and it's strange. It's hard to explain. People think you're nuts when you say it, you know, but it's true. It really is.
You know, as another perfect example, I just happened to be surfing on somebody's wall, and I saw that Sam Waters found her first belt plate.
Yeah, that was in March.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, tell it.
No, I was actually out there with Angela McLean. She invited me to go out to this place in Harrison County. And it was found on accident. I was just walking around the property and envisioning how things looked and what people would be doing out there. And I was going back to my truck to get a bottle of water. I wasn't even swinging my coil, and I walked over top of it. It was right in my car.
See?
I was like... I never, that's the thing, I never forget my water bottle. That day I did.
See, but that's the reason why you forgot your water bottle.
It could have been. I mean, I walked out around the front of the truck and around with Angela, and it was actually on the other side of my truck. It just, what are the odds of that?
Right.
Sam, things happen for a reason.
Yeah, and I'll tell you.
Now, that rocked your boat, Sam. You were literally broken in tears. Your hands were shaking.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I never thought I'd even hold one, let alone find one.
Yeah.
Who held that last? How did it get there? You know, and it would have been nice to have the Historical Society work with me on finding out how, because, you know, the Union and the Confederates actually walked through Harrison County, but not up that far, so we thought. Who's to say that they didn't, and it was never recorded?
Yeah.
So it just, now it sits in my possession because the Historical Society didn't seem real. He was a busy guy. He had a lot of things going on. It just didn't hint at all to bring it in, you know. Eventually I will go back out to that site and maybe get some more, gather a story, and then present them. But for now, it's just supposed to sit. You know, it's just, I just get that feeling. You know what I mean? You know, when I first went out to the site that we're going to go to in a couple of weeks, I was given permission originally on 1 acre. And for some reason, I felt like I had to be there. 1 acre. And I know what you mean by finding a particular thing that belonged to somebody. This ring I found out there that was made from a bullet. It had the rubies in it and everything. The soldier held that. He wore that. What happened to him? What was his name? Ever since I found that out there, I was being called back and been given that much permission. I wanted to bring in a crew that had the same passion, like what you guys are talking about. You got to feel that. We're all being called there, and it's just not a coincidence.
It's
That's
not.
right.
It's
Everybody that's involved, it's like a way was paved for them to come to this site, and it's so hard to explain all the coincidences, all the little things that's been fallen into place. And when I'm out there walking on that property, you know, getting pictures for you guys or scouting the land, you're stepping into another time. This place is so not in your own world anymore. And I will tell you, if people can call me crazy or not, maybe I was so into it, I actually heard horses galloping. Now, you're in a valley. There's homes beyond those hills. But they were there. Something was there. I can feel it. I can hear it. And it's like they're just ready for us. I don't know. I just feel like it's time for them to have their story told.
Now, Sam,
You know?
I'll tell you what. That's very. It's not uncommon. If you have that connection, and you feel deeply about it, and you really have an open heart, it's like and Howard knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know, I held this little Willie's Jeep in my hand, giggling. You know.
Yeah.
And you know, two kids playing army, and you know, it's just it's kind of someone's way of letting you know you're welcome.
You're right.
Because trust me, if you didn't feel welcome, you would have a heaviness and say, I don't feel comfortable here. But when you walk on a property and you feel like a guest,
yeah.
Yes.
Trust me.
Yeah.
Yes.
That, and I'm telling you, I've experienced a place where I didn't feel like I should be, and many places where I have. And I'll tell you what, it hits you like a ton of bricks. When you know you're in a property that, you know, we're not ready right now, please don't be here, you know it. I tell you know
I've
it.
been on a couple, and I've actually went back to this one site because it's like, well, maybe it was just me, and maybe it was just in the air. It was the same. You just, it's like it's so hard to explain, but you understand. You just know you are not supposed to be there right then.
Right.
And I've waited months.
Ground thing. You feel, you know, that it's like, you know that you're wanted there. You know that someone wants you to find things or tell the story.
Right.
They're ready for it.
Right.
On other places, not so much. You know, maybe they want to be at peace.
It's just not time sometimes for those other places.
Right.
Exactly.
It is, however, time for me to go, though. So, Howard, always a pleasure. Utah, great panel, great show tonight. Glad to be a part.
Hey, take care.
You all have a good evening.
Talk to you later.
You too, buddy.
Okay, take care.
So this is my second question, and I'll pass the torch, Howard.
Sure.
This was a good segue to what my second question is. Have you ever been or dug an object and felt a strangeness about it, where, you know, you're like, I don't know if I want this. Maybe I should bury it, or you just get a feeling of I wouldn't say a feeling of dread, but a feeling of uneasiness, I guess, is the best way to describe it. Because I have.
Yeah. I think that there had been places that I would be sensitive enough to that when I get there, I find myself just deflecting.
Mm-hmm.
I won't even get as far as to actually just parade over the ground and dig it up. Nope. I mean, even before I even get to that point, I find myself just being deflected from it.
Mm-hmm.
And going elsewhere to another spot.
Mm-hmm.
Or just in the area in general and end up going to another site.
Mm-hmm.
But over time, I find myself going back to earn their trust. I go back with an open heart, and what I hold between my heart and my mind is the fact that I'm not here to get rich, to pillage all the silver and the coin that's here and then just leave. I've come here to understand what happened.
Yeah.
To listen to your testimony. Over time, they start to come around. And before you know it, I might show up and maybe do some sifting, and one thing will lead to another. And over time, you actually earn their trust.
There's a reason why I asked you that. You know why? Because I have that problem right now with the site. And
yeah.
I want to go back to it, but I want it to be a very slow process. I feel in my heart it needs to be a slow process. So I wanted to find out if you've had that experience where, you've had to do that, where you felt maybe I'll just keep coming back, and if I feel differently, or because really you do know. You know whether you're welcome or not. You do.
Yeah. Hey, I'll tell you one place that I was welcome. I went to Chepachet, Rhode Island, among some of the members of our group. This was a special occasion where we were invited to come to a historical tavern that had participated in Dawes Rebellion in Chepachet, Rhode Island. And when I walked into that door, I started to laugh and giggle right away. I mean, I actually felt a warm welcome. Now, mind you, of course, while I was there, for about the first 15 minutes, I sat down at what is known as the King's Table, okay? This is a table that is considered a second rating of being haunted. It wasn't like one of the top booths, or tables that was reputed to be haunted, but this coming in second, right? So I sat down at the very head of the table where I had a short wall that was just behind me. And I kid you not, I sat down to graze on my appetizer and take a sip of beer, and I had a fisherman's cap on along with my woolen green vest, my waistcoat, and just before I was served fish and chips to this fisherman, okay, at the head of this table, someone with unseen hands tipped the back of my cap up from behind me. And I'm looking at everybody at the table, and I said, "Did you just see that?" And everybody just stood there like, "Well, I thought, didn't you tip your hat?" And I said, "No, I didn't." I said, "Someone else did." Yeah, I felt a warm welcome when I walked into this establishment, and I know that I'm going to be back again.
That's cool. That's cool. Hey, thanks so much, Howard,
Sure.
for answering some great, some giving us some great stories with my questions. I wanted to make. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna pass the torch to the next person, so we can learn more about Howard.
I'm going to step in the middle before Sam takes over with questions real quick.
Go ahead, speak up.
Just to thank everybody again in the external for coming out for the chat. It's truly an awesome time. I do want to give a quick shout out to not only Beyond Sight and Sound, Joss's show that airs on Wednesday evenings. If you guys have not checked out that show, you need to do so. It's an awesome time, always fun, always informative. But last night he had a really awesome group on as his guest. It was a family on YouTube known as Relic Dirty Hands. That was an amazing chat, amazing show. For some reason, I just hung on every word of it. So I want to give a shout out to them as well. If you guys haven't checked out their videos, you need to do so. Their entire family is involved in metal detecting, and it's really enjoyable to watch. So now that I've said that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Sam and let her continue talking to Howard.
Well, it's been an amazing chat already. This is really great. First, I wanted to say that JMO is in the chat, but for some reason he can't comment or anything, so he wanted me to tell everybody hello.
Hello.
And Howard, that history is, he wrote history equals his story. So that's all for you, is this your story. You've been, the way that you explain things, it needs to be written. It's almost like it's written in a book. Like, it's just, I wish I could explain things like that. I can write some things that way, but to portray it that way is just amazing. It just really has. Anyway, I'll try to stay on the same lines. I think you guys covered a lot of really great stuff.
Yeah.
What is your biggest bucket list item that you have not found yet?
Oh, okay. As far as coins go, I would be so thrilled to find a bust $50.
Wow. You're in a good area to where you're finding some good things over there. We don't have too many 1700s things here. I mean, I know Joe Toth had found a New Jersey coin, 1700s club for him, but I have not. I think that would be a great thing to be able to have that. I'm sure it's in the ground here somewhere. Maybe where we're going in a couple weeks. Who knows? Who knows? But yeah, and I can relate a lot to what you guys were talking about with going on to sites and getting that feeling. And I wonder how many people that do metal detect actually get that. You know, it's almost like it. Yeah.
I think a lot of them do, Sam, and that's one of the reasons why they do it.
Yeah, that's the addiction, and I agree. I agree with you guys. That's what's drawing you back. You know, it's not the item; it's the history of the item.
Exactly.
Absolutely. What kind of equipment do you think you're going to be, bringing out in a couple of weeks? I don't think I've ever asked you what you actually saw.
To be honest, I gotta say, presently I use the Garrett AT Gold, and I'm pretty happy with it. I'm getting to know and understand all of its bells and whistles, whatever programming that's on it. I try to just keep it simple. I like JMO's philosophy: sweep, beep, big.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I like it. And it should be just that easy.
Yeah.
It's having all these other machines with all of these extra bells and whistles of this, that, and the other thing, does everything but wash the dishes for you. You know, nah. You know, I'm happy with just the machine that just goes beep, sweep, beep, dig.
Yeah.
Dig. Now, I've seen a lot of guys, you know, with a $3,000 machine that was in competition with another old timer that was using a model that had to have been 35, 40 years old, and blew him out of the water with what he was finding. Because one, he wasn't afraid to dig. Okay? The ones who really find all the real awesome stuff, you know, are the ones who are not afraid to pick up a 10 or 14-inch log that's been laying on the ground for 60 years and move it out of the way, and then to find that soft squeaker. And you open it up, you take out about 4 to 6 inches, and then you hear that clear, perfect sound. Beep, 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 beep. And you look at those numbers, and they're like 82, 84, 82, 84. Solid, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You laugh and giggle because you already know it's a silver coin.
Yeah. That's how I found my Walking Liberty $50. It was actually under a huge rock. And I typically metal detect by myself, so it took me a while to move this rock. But I did it because I knew there was something underneath that rock. And it turned out to be a 1935, it was the same year that they put the lake in that was there. So it's kind of had a history to it.
Yeah.
And you have to learn your machine, take your time, and dig every signal. That's the key. You gotta do your research, know your machine, and yeah, it doesn't matter which machine you're using. It's how well you know it. I like my whites because it is a simple beep, swing, dig. That's it. You know, I don't have any extra. And I've seen a couple of the other machines, and it's like you need some kind of training for months on end to even understand what the screen says.
Yeah, you know? You gotta have a degree to operate the bloody thing.
Yeah, it was a bit confusing, but I'm happy with what I have. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep it simple, girl. Keep it simple.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure if I have any more questions. I mean, if I do, Utah, I could probably jump right in there, but open it up to people in the room.
I have a number of different things, you know, that I could be talking about. Some of them we actually hit on. I do have that poem. I believe I did read it to you, Sam, right?
Yeah, you did.
All right, now I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, all right?
Not yet.
Yeah, because I really wanted to save it for when I get under the mic.
Yeah.
And there's 200 people to get it at earshot.
Yeah.
Okay? Because I want to recite the poem with real conviction here, see? So, yeah, I'll save that. But I do have another one that does corroborate.
Okay.
The title of it is called Jeer Not This Pumpkin.
Hey, Howard?
Huh?
I said, hey, Howard, after you read this poem, I'm gonna go to Swansea real quick, let him ask some questions, and then we'll open it up to you to give us more stories.
Okay. All right. So, all right, then I'll read it, and then you can chime in. All right. All right. Well, now I gotta have you know that I wrote this poem in tribute to my mother, and ironically,
Oh no.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Oh,
wrote the what?
I'm just gonna go grab my tissue.
Oh no, it's okay, dear. Go ahead.
I got him here. You're good.
Okay. All right. The poem is in tribute to my mother, who I did not know at the time that she was diagnosed with a terminally ill disease. So it's odd, that I wrote the poem just maybe 3 years before she died, and the poem is about me and her. Okay, and the title of the poem is "Jeer Not This Pumpkin." All right. Now, coincidentally, I'll make mention that the 3 seeds that I speak of in what I read earlier, empathy, integrity, and compassion, okay, those represent pumpkin seeds. Okay, so, okay, they meant to right from the start, before I wrote all that. All right, so bear that in mind. You'll find a lot of things in here that corroborates with the poem that I wrote later on. Now, I wrote this in 1997. Okay, so I'll read on. Upon the windowsill, warm was your embrace. Cold I was not. This pumpkin you did place. Unto every man's palate your cooking shall they all perceive. Joyously from within this idea did you not conceive? With knife and spoon let us begin. Candles and matches glowing was my skin. Magic you did sought, empty had many thought, just null space, enchanting all with wisdom, for you had carved my face. Sugar and flour fetch from below, make thick the crust. My drying seeds, this death I entrust, to frighten you shall not bestow. Make ready, 'tis almost Hallows Eve, I do believe, so fear not he who swings the sigh. Hungry as all weary travelers, she makes the pie. First from the patch you did pick a jack-o'-lantern, the burning wick, for I have lived twice. A pudding pie you did cry, cutting another slice, to have lived again, not once, but thrice. So behold, for all who are downwind, mark your pleasant stay. Know this poet philosophically wishes to convey, life for nature will not betray. Okay, so that simply just I had 3 lives. First is a pumpkin, and then a jack-o'-lantern, and then I'm made into a pie. But still, there's 3 seeds that come from this null but empty space. The 3 seeds of wisdom, integrity, empathy, and compassion. See? You see how they interplay? These poems that I'm talking about were written, well, let me see. Let's do the math. 97 to 2007. That's 10 years right there. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Good God. That's 17 years ago. 17 years apart. And now I'm just breaking out with NAAR. And just when I hammered the die for NAAR, writing it down on paper, Sam was already had just months following that, Sam was already having this whole project in the works by May. And you tell me what's going on. I know exactly what's going on. This is something that's much bigger than all of us would never even fathom. And it's all coming into play. It's happening, regardless of the odds and probabilities that may be against us, or the hurdles and the walls that, these obstacles that we try to hop over. Now, for an example, this bit with being technologically challenged, I thought I was going to blow a gasket just an hour or so ago, and I was going to wash it all out. I'll be totally honest. I was just going to throw my hands up, to the whole issue and just find another way of trying it again, but through the phone, right? So what happens? I end up calling Sam. She's the one that talked me out of it. Oh, no, don't worry. Everything is just fine. Get your ass back upstairs. We'll fix this. Yep. And here we are. See? This is awesome. Yeah. I can't wait till October. Now I got a fire under my ass. Yeah, this is, and what's really cool, is, I got all of these great people, it's like Sam and Utah and Swansea, Josh Kimmel, and everybody is going to be there, man. This is just, my God, my head's going to explode.
Things happen for a reason, Howard.
Yes, it is. It's all coming into play.
Yep.
It's, this is just going to be awesomeness.
Yeah.
Wow, Friday is going to be really busy, that's for sure. I know there's at least, 30 or 40 people on the ghost tour? Do you know how many people are going to go to that now?
I haven't even double-checked the list.
Yeah.
Because since we were just all going off of our itinerary to do that, it was just whoever can come. And instead of the building, we're probably just going to be along the road.
Yeah.
Going to talk to landowners a little bit. We won't be on the property, but we'll be within the vicinity. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Because you know what? I have the faith in knowing that everything is going to happen just the way that it should.
You're right.
Looking forward to that ghost hunt. I am looking forward to that.
The cool thing is, you don't have to be out there at 2 a.m. in the morning.
No.
Right.
Well, for a true case history, a true haunting, it is recommended that you go during those off hours because it is really quiet. And most paranormal experiences that take place are only unto those who only have one set of eyes. Maybe you and a friend at best. Any more than that, I've seen a lot of ghost hunts, that go on, and there might be as many as 10, 15, 20, or 30 people go on this one ghost hunt. They all parade all through the house. You know what? If I were a ghost who's trapped in my own home, and I saw all of these people, I wouldn't be the first to show up. I'd be like, the hell with this. Zip! Right upstairs, just like the Maitlands in the movie Beetlejuice. What was the first thing they did? Yeah, they bolted right upstairs to the attic and never came down. Yeah. You know, you got to consider that, that these are real. These people have real emotions that are still intact. And as soon as you psychologically profile their predicament and understand what their emotions is going through their consciousness, their surviving consciousness, you got them nailed. You already know what to say to appease them or to please what they would approve of.
Honestly, you know what, Howard? I don't think you have to say a word. I think that, it's in your thoughts.
You're right.
And they know it.
Exactly. See, that's why, for an example, now, I've walked in to a number of different sites. No, wait a minute. Hold that thought. Let me try that again. I have heard of a lot of guys who walked on certain or particular sites, and they claimed to me to say, well, hey, there was 4 of us there. I think Joey got an ox shoe, and Ryan got a flat iron bar. I think it's a strap hinge, and they all went home with nothing aside from those 2 items. So I'm like, well, where is this place? And they said, well, it's down such and such road, la 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 la. I'm like, okay. I said, do you mind, if I go and check it out? And they're like, have at it. We didn't find anything down there. We've already been down there like 4 times already, and we ain't got nothing. I'm like, okay. Of course, I didn't tell them. But I went there, and I found this, and I found that. I found a spoon. I found buckles. I did find 1 colonial copper. However, it was a beater. I came back with a list of like 8 or 10 items, that were keepers, especially some of the buckles and stuff. And they stood there with their mouths open, like, where'd you get the buckle? And I said, well, I got it, just on the right side of that big oak tree, right next to the stone wall. And they stood there with their mouth open, like, dude, I put that machine in all metal, and I didn't find a damn thing. And I couldn't help but laugh, because obviously, if they know that you have every intention of, looking to get rich, just pillage the place for all the silver and copper coin and then run, with no consideration to those who had lost it, nah, you get nothing.
Yep.
You got to start to think. It does. It really makes sense, because you got to start to think that these people, scientifically, has been proven, their surviving consciousness consists of electromagnetic energy. Because we wouldn't be able to capture their voices on cassette tape, which happens to be an electromagnetic tape.
Right.
All right. Okay. So we know where this is going. So we're talking about magnetic, well, not necessarily magnetic, but metallic objects in the ground. Okay, so if they really wanted to, and they understood the negative and positive concept of these 2 polar opposites of these electric fields, okay, they could intentionally put a negative charge or mask over anything that they feel that you're not deserving of. And
wow.
I'm convinced. I'm convinced, because
I'll tell you, Howard, this is how I look at it.
Yeah.
If you died and you had the power to give your objects or your things to whoever you wanted,
yeah,
and you had the power to understand where their mentality is, what would you do? You know, you would say, no, this guy's just here to take whatever I've got. But
Right.
I'm going to save it for a guy who appreciates what I've got.
Yes.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I don't think, I just honestly believe I would do the same thing that, you know, that some of these spirits would do when you walk on some of these sites. You know? Really.
Yeah.
Hey, Swansea, you're up if you have any questions.
I most certainly do.
All right.
Howard, it's great to talk to you in person for the first time. I've talked to you on a private message on Facebook as Brandon Stewart. Obviously, a lot of people make the correlation, some don't.
Okay.
What I wanted to follow up on was you were talking about earlier reading the letters in the attic of the soldiers. Did anything come of those letters? Did they go anywhere? Did you leave them in the home?
No, I brought them with me because I found out later that that the house was actually torn down. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, the city had had the house condemned, because it was in really bad shape, and they were afraid that a lot of the local kids in the area was going to burn it down. So it was just a tragedy just waiting to happen.
Yep.
So they actually tore it down. They were going to use it for training, for firemen.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty common practice, among a lot of these abandoned homes. And but they thought otherwise, they thought it'd be cheaper just to tear it down, I think. But yeah, I don't regret the fact that I took them home. I still have them. I had them all in chronological order too.
That's awesome. Did you take the whole chest?
Huh? Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, I still got the chest, yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Another question I have for you too is,
I took a picture of it.
Oh, nice.
Oh yeah.
Send me a picture of that. I'd love to see that.
I'd like to see that too.
Okay. Yeah, you got it.
Another question I have for you too is, again, you're known as the godfather in this hobby, and so many people look up to you for metal detecting. They look to you for advice. I'm sure you get a lot of messages. Is there anybody in this hobby that you have that you look up to and that you can go back to over and over again?
Yes. Yes. There's quite a few. Bill Henderson, the original founder of Silver City Treasure Seekers. Todd Hiltz of Connecticut. Dave Wise. Jeez, I'll be honest. There's quite a few, but that's the few that I can name from the top of my head. Sam, of course. Yeah.
That's backwards, Howard.
Huh?
I really look up to you. I'm just doing, what everybody else does, and I'm glad that I'm able to kind of be an ambassador for this, to bring people in. But thank you. I feel honored for that.
Well, it's deserving.
Thank you.
I'll tell you that. Yes, it is.
Howard, that you're a native New England boy, you must have had some amazing finds from New England, which we get to deal with up here. Thank God we live in an awesome part of the country where we can do this. Is there something you'd like to find in other parts of the country that you haven't had a chance to go and detect yet?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me see. Oh, I know. I would love to find a pair of spurs.
I found one.
You did?
They're out. Yes, in a field, late 1700s, early 1800s. They're out there. You'll find them in fields.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, man, I would kill to find a pair of those. Like on the very subflooring from a log cabin,
Oh, wow.
You know, like 1840s maybe or something, and to actually find a pair of them wired together so that they wouldn't get separated, which happens often. You know? Oh my word, yeah, that would be killer. A pocket spill of just one gold coin with maybe at least one or two silvers.
That'd be a great find.
That would, wouldn't it? Yeah. Wow. You know, because I mean, whenever you find a gold coin, it obviously has a story to tell, because what follows gold, always to follow gold, is a story of dreams and desires, of death, you know, emotion, far on, you know, way on overkill, you know, emotions, you know, that you just wouldn't be able to handle for the most part. I mean, golden guns go hand in hand, always did all through the history of the West. Oh, name it, you know, most anything, you know, can be impacted to gold. Anything that's gold, whether it be gold jewelry, or gold coin, or gold bullion, or a bag of gold dust, you know, from a greedy old miser, you know, hermit, you know, that lived in a hovel, but he had, you know, 300 pounds of gold dust under his floor and of his shack, you know.
Right.
You know.
Some sort of a stash somewhere.
Oh yeah, yeah. You know, these people, you know, they got gold fever. You know, so twisted in a knot with gold fever. You know, they actually feared to spend anything. You know, and that's yeah. Those people out west, they actually did get a little too much sun. Yeah, it's true. It's true. You know, they say out there in Death Valley it gets about 160 degrees at times. It averages about 135. Now, can you imagine spending how many hours out there? Getting lost within 15 to 20 mile perimeter of Death Valley?
Yeah.
Just enough, you know, that you could make it out alive. And in the meantime, your brain is actually getting cooked like a boiled egg. Because I'm not lying when I tell you that. That is true. Yep. You know, that's why a lot of people say, you know, the old expression, you know, you got a little too much sun. You know, yeah, that's like, it's horrible out there. You know, but you can imagine what's out there to find, though.
Right.
You know, because the environment out there is so harsh. You know?
How many people tried it for a few hours, said, I can't take this, and they had to just walk away, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You know, and when you're faced with death and you walked into a skeleton and you see those 2 bags of gold clutched in that skeletal hand and you're dying of thirst, you're just going to keep walking.
Right.
You know, because you know that if you make the attempt to try to carry those bags out, you won't make it. You'll go down twice as fast.
You'll be that next set of bleached bones in the desert.
Exactly. You know it. You're a dead man if you pick out those gold coins, you know. So unless, you know, you go through there, you know, with transportation and you got another 60 to 80 gallons of fuel in that four-wheeler, you're all set.
Right.
If you come across it, you're like, yep, I'm golden because I'm coming out alive. Oh, yeah. You know, it does happen. I mean, I would not be a bit surprised if there are some places out there and some of the deserts in the world where there is to actually see the skeletal remains of a greedy man with his bony hands clutched onto a golden grail or cup. You know, I mean, for real. Just like they show in the movies. Yeah, you know, there are finds like that's out there. You just got to be there at the right time, at the right place. You know? Yeah.
Good question for you, Howard, too. Here's my other question from being from New England. What's your preference for metal detecting? Do you do plowed fields? Do you do hay fields? Do you do cellar holes? What's your preference for living in this part of the country?
Ooh.
And this is a two-part. The other part is,
Right.
Where do your best finds come from?
Okay. So my best finds come from picnic grounds, early picnic grounds that, not surprising, are now woods. Cellar holes, woods, picnic grounds. Those are my favorites.
In that order?
Yep, in that order. Yep. One of the more significant finds that I've made. Oh, okay. Yeah, here we go. How about this one? I actually had the video footage for it, but I gotta get my camera guy to download it on the YouTube for me. It may need a little bit of editing, I think, but actually I should save it for a special episode. But what actually happened was I went metal detecting just not long ago with some friends, with Charlie and Henry from Stealth Diggers. The Stealth Diggers crew came down with Cal Rio.
Yep.
And I went to my home grounds, my ancestral grounds, where at least 200 years of my family history was born and raised and had broken the ground and had tamed the ground from forest to field. We all went there, and for 2.5 or 3 hours that we were there, we weren't finding all that much to look at, I'll tell you. Crushed Pepsi cans, beer cans, pull tabs, you know, the evil ones. A little bit of brick and brack. Some of the other guys found an eyelet, you know, for from a wagon or a carriage. I think that was second best. But the odd thing is this. Nearly 3.5 hours before we went there, we made a stop at a parsonage of the 17th century. It was built in 1668, and the caretaker there was a woman who was always busy with her hands. She had about 15 or 20 sheep on the parsonage, on the land there adjacent to the house, and she spun wool, and she spun it on the wheel, and she had a whole spool of woolen yarn at this place. So just minutes before we were to head on our way, after we went to this wonderful grand tour, I asked the woman there, I said, would you mind if I had a short length of that woolen yarn? She said, oh, no. She said, go ahead. She says, no, that's fine. I said, oh, thanks. So I got a length roughly about 16, 18 inches long. And I think. And I took it and I flipped it over the back of my neck and I tied it into a loose knot. As I was walking out the door, I said to everybody to hear at earshot, I said, hey, look at this. I got some nice woolen cord. I said, now all I need is a hold punch silver 2 real. And everybody just kind of laughed and said, yeah, wouldn't that be nice, huh? No lie. 3.5 hours later, I went to my hometown on my ancestral grounds out of a total of 60 acres. Okay, I'll repeat that. 60 acres. I found one item as big as a quarter. I got this solid target, while everyone else within feet from me. Charlie, I don't think, was 8 feet from me. He found 4 crushed beer cans, one after the other. I, the only one out of all of us there, was in my ancestral grounds to walk over that one coin out of 60 acres. I found a 1721 Spanish silver pistarine.
Wow.
Here's the best part. I got hit right in the side of the head to realize that the coin was punched.
Unreal.
Wow.
Okay? Here's the best part. I turned around and I gave the camera to one of the guys out of the Stealth Stickers group. I think it was Bob. And he shot the whole thing as I said this. And Craig Kuhn, who was with us, pointed it out again because he didn't hear the story that I was saying. He thought I was just rambling about the find. And he happened to walk into the scene to repeat it again. And just when he did, I heard a crow just overhead, not far away, cawing at me or at us. You know, I mean, come on. Let's do the math here, okay?
Right.
60 acres. I was the only one who had any real business being there, given the fact that my ancestral blood and sweat and tears, okay, would scream from the ground in which I walked on. And I walked over this one coin that's 1 inch by 1 inch out of 60 acres. And coincidentally, it just happened to be hold where I just quoted to everybody in the group 3.5 hours earlier that morning to say, gee, wouldn't it be nice if I had a hold Spanish real? You know, then you tell me what's going on.
Yep.
Right.
Oh, this is what I'm talking about. This is a perfect case scenario. And the best part is I have it on camera to prove it.
Awesome.
Okay? And I got 7 witnesses to bear testimony to this.
My last comment for you, Howard, is you talk a lot about spirituality with finding things in metal detecting. And this is a little bit of a short story for you. I don't know if you saw it when it happened a couple months ago. I lost my mother a year ago in August, and I went out metal detecting with a couple buddies a few months ago, and I found a 1956 penny. Nothing major, but it was the year my mom was born.
Yeah,
So when I found that penny, I said, hey, Mom, look, it's the year you were born. Looked up at the sky, kept moving on. My very next signal was a locket that said love forever, and I left the field after that.
Wow. Yeah, man, you get it.
I mean, there's a longer story if you want to check my Facebook page, but that's the long and short of it. Right there, that ended my day detecting, because that right there, and again, my mother was my biggest advocate in metal detecting. I still carry all the religious medallions I ever found. I always gave them to my mom. When she passed away, I found them in her jewelry box. So when I detect, they're all with me all the time. But that right there told me that, like you said, there's some sort of a connection between people that want to tell a story or want to talk to you about something that maybe they can't tell you in person, and that right there puts it all home.
Yeah, yeah, it does. You know, Jeffrey Zollner, he's another. You know, his dad had passed away not long ago. And, you know, he just happened to look up and see, gee, you know, it's been a long while, Dad, you know, since I found this, that, and the other, you know, and he's silver. And no kidding, very next signal, bam, you got a $50. Bam, you got a quarter. Yeah, those are the two top leading coins I think that he found, you know, but I thought that he found something else, you know. But it all, you know, he put it all together. You know, he knows that it was from his dad.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. You know, no doubt in his mind. Your testimony, you know, what you just said, do you know how many times I've heard this? See? And you wonder why I have yet to write my book. You know, because I know how real it is.
Well, if you want the full-length chapter, I'll send it to you, buddy. I don't want any rights to it at all.
No, do that. Yeah, do it. Yeah, just send it to me to my inbox. I'll get it. I'll read it. Hell yeah.
Well, Howard, I'm out of questions, but it was a pleasure talking to you. I can't wait to meet you in person in October. This is going to be an epic thing that Sam put together. This is something I've been looking forward to for the longest time, coming from New Hampshire. It's absolutely unreal to go to Ohio to be a part of something like this. Yeah. And to meet people like you, Utah, Sam herself, Frank, everybody else that I've talked to so many times on Facebook and online.
Yeah.
Put all these people together in one place is truly an experience in and of itself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, man. You know, this is going to be awesome. You know, this is just going to rattle everybody's cage, you know.
The lack of sleep is going to come well before that Friday, believe me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So, well.
Yeah, I know I can't wait. I know I've said it to everybody I talk to, you know, it's amazing to have a chance to be a part of telling the historical story that's waited over 150 years to be told. And like Sam had said before, it's until the time is right for it. You know, the laws now are set just right to where we can actually do this, and we can tell the story the way it needs to be told, and it can come out the way it needs to.
Yeah.
And that's one reason, in my belief, that's one reason why it's just now happening, is because they know that now their story can be told, and we can do it, and we can put it out the way it needs to be done. To me, that is the most awesome thing about this. And then secondary to that, you have being on that field where people have fought and died for their true heartfelt beliefs and everything that they live for. They died for that. They died to try to protect that on that field. And that, to me, that's awesome. You can't. I can't portray how it feels to know that I'm going to be standing on the same dirt that they did and breathing the same air from the same area that they did. That is just, to me, is amazing. But then right up there, right along beside it, you know, to meet all the greats. To me, all the greats in the hobby, everybody who seems to be, almost anybody is a part of this in one way or another, and most of them are going to be there. And for this to have a chance to do that and to hunt with them and to actually shake their hand, to me that is awesome. I can't believe it. I'm still in awe about it all. Luckily, in just 2 weeks, it's gonna, you know, the dream is gonna come to fruition.
Yeah.
It's really great. I've heard and seen lots from you, Howard. I've followed different things that you've been on in the past and different things you've done. Truly, I am truly an admirer of yours. You're truly earned the title of an ambassador to the hobby. You've earned the title of, a godfather to metal detecting. You have earned that in the way you portray not only yourself but the hobby to everyone out there. And for that, I thank you.
Sure.
You're truly
Thank
somebody
you.
to look up to in more than just metal detecting, and that says a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
That says a lot in my book.
Yeah.
It's an honor
Well,
to have you on the show. I'm so excited to have you on here, just to have the opportunity to listen to some of the stories. I do want to get into a little bit because we do have some younger viewers from time to time that watch the chat. So, do you have anything that you would want to say to younger people that are interested in the metal detecting on how they can get more out of the hobby of metal detecting than just finding treasure, as far as things out for themselves that they can start doing now, to where later on in the years they can look back and say, wow, I'm glad I did it this way when I was younger, because now I'm able to do this.
Okay. All right. So you, what you're saying is, or what you're asking is, what would I say to inspire a younger generation?
Not just inspire, but what would you tell them to try to do to where they get more out of the hobby?
Oh. Well, to get more out of the hobby is to do this. One would be, well, for an example, say if they found a monogrammed high school ring from like maybe the 1940s or even the 1950s. Now, the odds and probability of that individual still being alive is pretty good. But the adventure is for them to look up this guy and to go through the high school records or the yearbooks and find him, and then look this guy up, and then call him up, and then go meet him, and then watch the expression on his face with eyes swelling up with tears as you give him the ring that he lost 60 years ago. What they will get out of that, is those stirring emotions. And, oh, wow, Dr. Feelgood, are you kidding? They're going to be walking on cloud 9 to both of them, both the finder and the one receiving the ring. It was, no, that's awesome. See, that's what you want for these younger kids to experience, is these emotions of knowing that, say for an example, here's a perfect case example, Utah, right? Here's one for you. Let's say if I go there and I find a young boy, say 10 or 12 years old, bright kid, smart, fast learner. I say, come on, kid, I'm going to lead you on to a place. I'll show you what to do. This is going to be awesome. We're going to have fun with this. And we actually find a target that I may participate to help him dig, and I shoot the whole thing on camera. But while we were there, I'll get a Class A EVP response to the saber that he's going to dig out of the ground that he just found with his machine. Okay? Now, this kid is going to put the headphones on and to actually hear the soldier call out this sword to say, this is mine, or, you know, some other direct response in reference to the sword, or keep it sharp. Keep it sharp. You know, something like that. You know, something that the kid is going to leave him with no doubt in his mind that he hears and experiences the ghostly, whispering testimony of a soldier who died in the Civil War to tell this 12-year-old boy to keep the blade sharp on his sword. Now, you tell me, what could make a better impression to the mind of a 12-year-old kid?
Exactly.
You know?
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. That's what you do. That's how you really get them hooked, Utah. You got to take them out there to the field. You know?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, history is a great aspect of it, but if you look at it more than just saying, oh, this item is from 1820 or
Yeah.
1850. I mean, if you look at it as far as, you know, you dig up an old toy, you know, soldier out of the ground and you think of the kid that, you know, he only had a handful of these total to begin with, and now he's lost one of those, and it's likely he may never get another one in his lifetime. If he does, it could be a year or two before he gets it replaced.
Right.
And to think of what that kid felt when he realized that he had lost one of them, you know, think of that. It's just, yeah, it hits you like a rock upside the head sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
Yeah, exactly. You know, speaking of getting hit, you know, here's a real good example. This one site that I go digging in Taunton, and it was just a fluke. I just happened to find a real tight target that hit off like 75, maybe about 80, and it kept flipping back and forth. You know, it sounded pretty good. I was hopeful. I was thinking, you know, it might be a two-piece button, you know, from like the Civil War, maybe, you know, and my luck, I might have a broken shank. Oh, that's fine. So I opened up the ground, and I found this triangular piece of copper. And I'm looking at the gauge of this copper. It's about 50th of an inch in thickness, which is half of a 16th of an inch. And I'm thinking, hey, that's kettle copper. I'm thinking, oh my God! Now it's hitting me over the head. I'm realizing that I'm holding what could be described as a King Philip's point, a copper point.
Wow.
From the King Philip War that took place during the 17th century. This is 1675. Well, here's the best part, okay? I looked up the history, and I found out that Edmund Andrews' father, John Andrews, was a veteran who went on the Middleborough campaign in March of 1675 with a wound to his leg from an arrow. I found that copper arrowhead inside the foundation hole.
Wow.
Broken tip. It came from the calf of his leg, his right leg. That's a noted historical fact. It's in the books, and I have it.
Wow.
You know, that's mind-blowing.
Yeah, that is.
You know?
Wow.
You know, and of course I didn't know this until after I did the research, and it wasn't like maybe a year and a half after I found it. You know? Yeah.
Howard, I got a quick question for you, because I've done this with my local friends that have significant others that are school teachers.
Yeah.
Have you ever given anything to these people that are school teachers when they're learning about the Civil War, or like where we live, to worry about 1812, handing them the buttons and the musket balls and these buckles so these kids can actually hold it in their hands and really get more of a feeling for history about it?
Exactly. Exactly. Well,
Get that out of here.
you know, to be a teacher, you know, I've noticed following through the academic circles in my education, I had one history teacher who was really passionate about history, and the vehicle that is so inspiring to a student is to have an emotional teacher. That's the vehicle that inspiration rides on, is emotion. You know, there are times that whenever I'm teaching or expressing something in regards to history, while those from long ago, I know better to know that they were on this roller coaster ride of emotion. And when I realized how stirring those emotions can be, they start to manifest through me. And the next thing I know, I'm going through the mental anguish of what it was like for a woman to drag one half of her brother from the fields of the Civil War into the house with no legs. You follow what I'm saying? You know? And I actually start to feel a lump in my throat and a quivering lip. See? Now, here's a perfect example of what most people really should experience. Do you remember the episode of the Digfellas episode where I was down there in the bayou and I found an artist tag? It was a watch fob. It was an award that was presented to a local artist who got taken away during the hurricane of 1915. Now, if you remember that episode, I actually broke on camera with a trembling voice and a tear in my eye. And I was so glad that they left that intact. You know, they let that air on the show. I was really surprised. I didn't think they would have done that. And I can thank Michael Courtney for that. He put his foot down for that. Yeah, that was real emotion. That's what a lot of people were quite taken by. You know, because that watch fob was the only testimonial thing to be found on account of that local artist to validate that he existed. That was his tombstone. He never was properly buried. They never found his body. You follow what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You know? And, exactly. You know, the emotional anguish of this was actually funneling through me. I was grieving for him on camera. That's what was going on. You know? And
yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I've felt nothing to that degree, but I have felt definitely going on to sites where, you know, things have happened in history.
Uh-huh.
and you're in a perfectly fine, happy mood. You're
Yeah.
out digging. You're enjoying everything, and for some reason you'll turn a corner and go a certain direction swinging, and next thing you know, you're just overcome and feel a sense of just being down and depressed and
Yep.
just
Yeah.
it just
You got
all
it.
of a sudden it just changes, and it's like, what happened? You know, is there a weed around here that I'm smelling that's the pollen is making me feel this way, or what?
Hmm.
But that's what it is. It's just that it's them. It's the history. It's them.
That's the atmosphere I was talking about. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you know, I do want to go on to a different direction with this and ask
Sure.
a couple of different almost technical questions. One of which Ohio Relic Hunter in the external wants to know how Howard takes care of fresh dug copper once it's exposed to air.
Well, that's well, here's what I do. When I first take a copper out of the ground, I'll leave it out in the sun to let it breathe for the first time in 150 or 200 years or more. And you shouldn't be afraid to do this, because as soon as you take this coin out of the ground, it's inevitable. It's going to breathe, it's going to spall, and if the patina on the coin is strong enough, it will hold, as long as you don't scour it with your thumb or with your hands. You can lightly brush it with a soft toothbrush, and maybe just take a little bit of nose oil or skin oil from your brow, just above your eyebrows, and just rub your forefinger and your middle finger a little bit, and you smudge it on the base of the coin just enough to highlight everything. Zip. That's it. Call it. Those I would suggest that you do with a copper that may have a fragile patina. Sometimes it holds, sometimes it will flake off if you're not careful. You look on the very edge of the coin and you'll start to see it to spall and break. And they're like, yeah. Those usually happen to the early coppers. And of course, the soil conditions vary too. But if you get something like a 2-cent piece, the patina on those and the copper is a very high quality. You don't have to worry about those much. What I usually do is soak them in cold peroxide. Well, I don't know, maybe for a few hours, or even put them in overnight. Next day, after you get home from work, you just lightly brush off all the excess loose dirt that may be on it, and you can call it. However, there are some of the later coppers. You get the classic head and the matron lodge cents of the early 19th century. Those generally hold up pretty well in a cold bath of peroxide. If I'm right, I think that's what Dave Wise does, and Todd Hiltz. Dave Wise has this down to a science. He can read a coin really well. And what I mean by that is to read a coin is to look at it, understand the soil conditions in which you found it, consider how strong the patina is, whether if it's bold, whether if it's really strong or not, or if it's weak, then, well, we suggest that you just let it air dry, do a light brush with the soft brush, and a little bit of skin oil and call it it. Other than that, your best bet is just to, leave it alone. But if you get something that's strong, you can do a cold bath with peroxide. You'll be okay. But Dave knows how to read the coins really well. He knows exactly what to do from one coin to the next.
Yeah, not just coins. He knows how to read a lot of different things really well.
Yeah,
that man knows his
does.
stuff. He is amazing
I know it.
as well.
I know it.
I mean, I've seen him identify some buttons before that I thought there was no way that there was anything to be told about him, and he lists a whole story. It's like, wow. Oh,
yeah.
What else? It's amazing talking to you, and I could go on all night just listening to stories and stuff.
Thanks.
Honestly, you really remind me, and I truly think that you might be a modern-day American Robert Burns, because the way your poems are and the way you always speak, and I mean, even your signature is epic, and it's a poem in itself just to see your signature on things. It's awesome. So for that, I thank you. And does anyone else have anything to add before I give Howard the floor?
Any questions?
I don't think I have any.
I've got one for Howard.
Sam.
I'll just message you later.
Oh, okay.
Because I can't think of any right now.
I'll reserve the questions from when we meet, Howard.
There you go.
Okay.
Well,
That's just going in his own backyard. Stay in your own backyard when you're metal detecting. So explain to me, Howard, what's the best thing that you found in your own quote-unquote backyard area as far as significance to you?
Okay. A coin, silver baby spoon, you could call it that. It's a coin silver spoon that was commissioned by Charles Whiting between 1642 and 1742 to 1753 by Charles Whiting, silversmith from Hartford, Connecticut. This was made for the son of John Andrews, Edmund, his infant son, Edmund Andrews. When I found this coin silver spoon, made more likely of Spanish silver reals, was made for him, and you can still see the teething marks in the ladle of the spoon.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that awesome?
See, most of the best finds are in your own backyard, and that's why I have the Backyard Diggers as my group name. It's perfect. That's where we started out.
Yeah, I know, that's true.
That is awesome.
That is very cool.
So, I mean, this is the same site that I found that arrowhead.
Wow.
Yeah. So I have the arrowhead that came from John's leg during the campaign of the King Philip War. And I found the coin silver spoon that Edmund had ate of with his teething mark still in the ladle. I mean, how much personal, how personal can you get? That's just, wow. I do have another question for you.
is I know we have the thing coming up in a couple of weeks in Ohio with the CWPPO, and I know that you're just recently started your NAAR group.
Right.
What can we expect to see from Howard Hewitt in the near future, aside from the Ohio dig? Can you elaborate to any of us of things that we can expect or look forward to?
More videos. We're gonna make a sincere effort of making at least one video for every month, and where it goes from there, can only guess. It depends on how many associates who would want to join in the group. Now, there's going to be the elder members of the group who are, well, simply the elders, who are going to be pretty much going to be in charge of keeping the group organized as a group. But we encourage many associate members to join and to be good representatives.
Where can people go? Do you know where people can go yet to view these videos that will be coming out?
Well, I mean, I had the right people who know how to do that, if that's what you're getting at, Utah.
Well, no, I just mean, is it going to be on a YouTube channel? Is it going to be on a Facebook group? Is it going to be on a website?
I believe we could get it on a Facebook group pretty quick. To get it on YouTube, I do believe we were already talking about that. Okay. Yes. We may decide to do both. I don't know. See, now that's, you know, this is all the technological end of all of this that
exactly.
I might not know all the answers to. Our lead member of our group, who's technologically up to par, is Armando. He's our man right now with that. Between Armando and Justin, you know, Justin is pretty sharp onto it too. But I take care, you know, some dimensions of it, you know, while some of the other guys take care of all the rest.
So basically, keep an eye on Howard Hewitt and NAAR, and you will be seeing a lot of things here before long.
Right. Yeah. I get the idea that I'm going to end up going on a lecture tour across the country.
That would be amazing.
You know?
That would be amazing.
I hope that tour includes New Hampshire.
And Dallas.
Oh, of course. Of course. You know, I would go to all 50 states. It would probably take me over a year.
Yeah, you know? That would be awesome.
Yeah, it would. That'd be cool.
Oh,
yeah, that'd be kind of tough on me some, but you know. But no, I mean, it'd be cool. You know, I'd be among all the crowd. You know. Feel the love, you know.
My last thing I want to do is, you know, if anybody has anything to bring up, I'd like for them to do it now. But then I would love to finish the show tonight if you have one more poem that you would like to read, and we go off air after you finish reading that, I would love to close out with that if you could. Just because your writing is so epic. It really is. I really enjoy it. But
I
if
got a
anyone has
suggestion
anything else to
for his.
bring up,
How about the Raven poem?
Okay, something tells me to read it. All right. Okay. Now, this is this is this is going to be light in comparison to to seeing it live when I recite the poem, but I'll read it. All right. Yeah, wait a minute. Let me get the. Yeah, this is the book edition. Hold on. Yeah. Okay, let me see. Let me get this. All right. The Blind Raven. Heed the poem we so adore, paid in silver the message to deliver. These ghostly testimonies we cannot ignore. Unjustly paid by 10 and 4, admiration from all who may join. To redeem him, we present the silver coin. Integrity unto his pen we do implore. For this we leave ignorance to sleep forevermore. Witness the flooded shadow upon the floor. With courage the unknown we dare explore. Bone and sinew we ask that you knock. For this poet you need not mock, knowing reason to open the door. Graciously we invoke their ghostly wail, just as in death the promised veil. Shall we always be in flight, day or night? For reason will always prevail. Fearlessly our endeavor we intend to fulfill, as blinding is the sword, for this be my quill. Enlightenment and wisdom we dare have sought, by these very words I have wrought. Plumed all in black, look to the window sill. Unto those unseen we give safe haven, to recover what is graven. We ask that you leave the lattice window ajar, so never find yourself craven in sight of this stately raven, for we call ourselves NAAR. For every breath of reason, no death to always be the season, for we come near nor far.